Paladin Danse is simultaneously one of the best companions in Fallout 4, and also one of the most frustrating. On the surface, he's everything you'd want in a companion. Strong, protective, handsome, dreamy. But the more I play with him, the more I can't stand his backwards and broken logic. And I couldn't help but notice all the issues with him. So without further ado, here are 8 reasons Paladin Danse is an idiot. Reason number 1. He hates the disabled. So this one actually blows my mind, and it should probably blow yours too. Danse can tell you,
"A few months before you found us, one of my men was shot multiple times by raiders. Haylen stayed by that knight's side for 2 days straight, without sleep, fighting to keep him alive. But he was on a slow decline. I decided that his suffering needed to end, and ordered Haylen to administer an overdose of painkillers, so he could die with dignity. Even though I'm certain she wanted to continue fighting for that knight's life. She injected him without question."
and then you ask,
Are you asking me whether or not I approve?
and he says,
"Of course not. I stand by every order I've ever given. That soldier was gravely wounded. Even if, by some miracle, he happened to survive, he would have been paralyzed for life."
I just want to point out that in the Fallout universe, there are multiple medicines that canonically instantly heal people, including limbs. There are multiple miracle cures, and in this game, in the Brotherhood of Steel that Danse is a part of, there is a paralyzed woman who uses power armor to overcome her disability. So the only reason to sentence this soldier to death is either because Danse didn't want to be slowed down, or because Danse cannot imagine a world where anyone could live happily as a disabled person. And to cap it all off, he never even asked the guy. This is honestly just messed up. I think in terms of Fallout 4 writing, I think this was probably an oversight by Bethesda. Either Danse is literally just an absolute dunderhead, or he's some kind of sociopath who refuses to be hindered in any way. There's nothing more to say. Reason number 2. He remains dogmatic after he sees the Brotherhood for what they are. Anyone who has finished Danse's story will know that he remains loyal to the Brotherhood of Steel even after they decide to kill him, despite his innocence. In fact, if you let him, he will go to his grave before admitting the Brotherhood of Steel could ever be wrong.
The empathy that you're showing me, it's a human emotion.
I appreciate what you're trying to do, but I've made my decision. I'm ready to accept the consequences of my true identity. Maxon's ordered you to execute me, and I'll be damned if I'm going to stand in your way.
He really just had a decades-old friend command that he be killed and still shows loyalty to the Brotherhood of Steel. I don't know, just imagine you were in a cult, and that cult discovered that you were, let's say, Slavic or something, after decades of loyal service, then said, you have to die. Would you A, run away, B, allow yourself to be killed, C, all of the above, or D, escape from these people who are clearly insane? If you answered C, congratulations, you're as dumb as Paladin Danse. Reason number 3. He doesn't realize it's his ideals that get people killed. So Danse can tell you about his inspiration in the early days of his Brotherhood life.
When I was an initiate, my sponsor was Paladin Krieg, toughest squad leader I ever served with. He was a model soldier. After I was promoted to Paladin, and I'd moved on to my own squad, I received word that Krieg was killed at Adams Air Force Base.
And later, he'll tell you about his first friend ever, Cutler, who he joined the Brotherhood of Steel with, and...
Anyway, about a year after we were posted to the Prydwen, Cutler vanished on a scouting op. It took some convincing, but I was able to persuade my CO to let me assemble a squad and search for him. It took almost 3 weeks, but we tracked his team down to a super mutant hive. Those wretched abominations had slaughtered everyone but Cutler. He should have been so lucky. The mutant bastards used their FEV to change him into one of their own kind. He wasn't Cutler anymore. It was my duty to put him down.
And finally, he tells us about his time when he was first a paladin and he took charge of his own squad.
Look, 4 soldiers. Over half of my team are gone. Each one of them died because of decisions that I made. I understand the risks that come with the job. We all do. But how can anyone have confidence in me anymore? Hell, how can I have confidence in myself?
Now look, Danse is quick to blame all kinds of stuff for these events. The Enclave, super mutants, himself, and yet he never focuses on the truth. The Brotherhood of Steel is the problem here, and his life would have been much better if he'd never joined. The Brotherhood of Steel didn't finish off the Enclave at the Adams Air Force Base. The Lone Wanderer did. The Brotherhood of Steel didn't beat the super mutants in the Capital Wasteland. They eventually just gave up and left. And Danse didn't put those 4 soldiers in harm's way. The Brotherhood of Steel did. Danse stands before you a broken and devastated man, and it's like he's holding on to a snake that keeps biting him, but he refuses to put the snake down because, like all members of the Brotherhood of Steel, he has been told what to believe, and he thinks being a good person means believing what he's been told. Reason number 4. He doesn't know how to live a life. Look, this isn't a dig at anyone who wants to join the military or anything. You might even think that in the world of Fallout, joining a group that can feed and protect you wouldn't be such a bad idea. But Danse didn't need this. More on that in another reason. But no, the reason Danse is dumb for joining the Brotherhood of Steel is his reason for joining the Brotherhood of Steel. He joined up because he's afraid of living his own life and making his own decisions.
I've spent my entire life, or at least what I perceive as my life, following a plan to shape my own future. But since my banishment, I feel lost. Almost like I exist without purpose. For the first time since that moment I signed up with the Brotherhood, I don't have all the answers. I don't have a plan, and it scares the hell out of me.
In Danse, we see a man who lacks imagination. He lacks strength to stand on his own 2 feet and make his own decisions. He'd rather be a part of, well, any organization as long as they make the decisions for him. I'll go into more detail in another reason, but he had an okay life, and he gave it all up because he wanted direction. He already lived a safe, full life that most people in Fallout would trade anything for, and he gave it up to be told what to do because, well, it made him feel better. Reason number 5. He's ready to die for his beliefs, even while accepting his beliefs are manufactured. Another reason comes right when he's at his crisis for his life. When Danse is discovered to be a synth, he runs and hides in a bunker. Now, you go and track him down, and he's just ready to die, as I already discussed. But this is where it all falls apart. Danse is supposed to represent this horrific being of contradictions. On the one hand, he's a machine created by the Institute, a potential sleeper cell waiting for activation. On the other hand, he's chosen to be a dutiful soldier, committed to honor and integrity in the face of staggering odds. If he decides he's a synth, then the path of the sleeper cell is to run away. Check, we already did that. But then he switches to the path of the soldier, and he's like, nah, actually I changed my mind. Can you kill me, please? Bro, what? Why are you making this my problem? His explanation is he wouldn't want other soldiers to get the wrong idea.
I wish Maxon had sent someone else, but that doesn't change a thing. I'm a synth, which means I need to be destroyed. If you disobey your orders, you're not only betraying Maxon, you're betraying the Brotherhood of Steel and everything it stands for.
Like, I know you know this, Danse. I know that you know it's wrong to kill people for their immutable characteristics. I just need you to say it. Say you were wrong. Only an idiot would be literally willing to die rather than say, you know what, I was wrong this whole time. My bad. Yes, instead, he still backs up the Brotherhood, even if you manage to save him from himself. Reason number 6. He left behind a life as a merchant for the love of the game. Now, I want to circle back to the idea that Danse was forced to join the Brotherhood of Steel. Danse could have lived a safe, happy life without putting himself by choice into situations where he has to kill or be killed.
You're right. It was a settlement built inside the remains of a beached aircraft carrier. One of the safest places to live in the Capital Wasteland until the Brotherhood arrived. It was the perfect location for me to try my hand at being a merchant.
And again, I just want to say that all the pain that he's been through and that he's inflicted on others, I discussed in the previous points, was completely voluntary. He didn't join up because he was starving. He wasn't dying. He didn't join because he had nothing going on. He joined because he believed Brotherhood of Steel propaganda and wanted to kill the enemies of the Brotherhood of Steel. He could have found a girl, settled down, made a real living, Rivet City isn't perfect, but he already had friends there like Cutler.
We got along pretty well. Watched each other's backs and kept each other out of trouble. When the Brotherhood came through on a recruiting run, we felt like it was a way out of our nowhere lives. So we joined up.
Think back to Rivet City. It was the safest, largest city in the Capital Wasteland. And he left because he drank the Kool-Aid. Reason number 7. He can't process emotions. Another story Danse can tell us is about Scribe Haylen.
Haylen approached me while I was on watch. She didn't say a word, but I could tell something was wrong. After what felt like an eternity, she collapsed into my arms, crying. I didn't know what to do, so I just held her for a while. A few minutes later, she stopped, kissed me on the cheek, and simply said, "Thank you," before heading back into the police station.
I'm just going to keep it real. The first time that I played, I said to myself, man, no wonder this guy's a synth. He's clearly a robot. Look, chalk this up to however you want to interpret it, whether Haylen needed comfort that Danse couldn't provide, or whether she needed some meat which he refused to provide, or because he's right and he pushed her too hard. The point is, Danse literally has been stripped of everything that made him human, not because he's a synth created by the Institute, but because he chose to join the Brotherhood of Steel, and that group stripped him of his humanity. Hey, wait a minute, maybe that's what the writers meant when they wrote it. Reason number 8, he thinks people are nothing. Just to drive home the previous point, Danse is literally completely brainwashed by the Brotherhood of Steel. Once he finds out he is a synth, you catch him saying,
"After everything the Brotherhood taught you, how could you be in love with, well, a machine?"
And then later,
I started out as nothing, and I've ended up as nothing, and I don't know what the hell to do about it.
and like, I wish I could just hold him by the shoulders and shake him, and yell in his face, Danse, you're like 30 years old, dude. What do you mean, ended? After everything he goes through in the game, he really believes that a life outside an authoritarian military is just worthless. Like, this guy doesn't believe the evidence of his eyes. He meets singers, traders, scientists, centuries-old people, and this guy has the absolute audacity to sit there and say, but were they soldiers? Come on, Danse. I don't even have it in me to feel bad for you at this point. This is the Fallout equivalent of whatever passes for first world problems. You know what, Danse? After killing a 300-year-old kingpin, curing a girl who was going to die of a drug overdose, and then killing my own son, I guess I don't have time for a guy in XO1 power armor complaining that his life doesn't have any meaning since I didn't let his brothers in arms literally murder him. Just shut up already, dude. And that was 8 reasons Danse is an idiot.
To help you remain tranquil in the face of almost certain death, smooth jazz will be deployed in 3, 2, 1.
I make Bethesda content, so if you're new around here, consider subscribing. It helps you build character. I'll see you next week when I make something new. Until then, I'll see you around.